In shocking news, which is sure to become history, Democrat activists and some Democrats have launched a new impeachment campaign against Donald J. Trump. That's right. And their petition already has 250,000 signatures. Wow. Assuming that the signatures are as valuable as I expect, they may find themselves in a garbage sometime soon. Because I don't think these people realize that signing a paper saying Trump should be impeached has no legal bearing or merit, but, sure. Then, of course, you get Al Green standing up and wiggling his cane at Donald Trump and getting censured for it. And then after that, the Democrats obstructed Congress by singing songs in the well instead of actually carrying out the censure of Al Green. My friends, I got a poll. Despite the fact that a lot of people are upset with Trump over a lot of issues, I kid you not, it's an Emerson poll, they still overall like the guy. And he's got a positive approval. Actually, I do need to pull that one up. It is absolutely fascinating to see that this is not working the same way it did last time. Donald Trump's approval in aggregate is net positive, has been for some time. To be fair, it's about the margin of error to be middle of the road. But this is the best of his career. And at a time where we've got an uncertain economy, there are still people who know, despite the fact we are facing these issues, Trump's the right man for the job. Now, I do have a lot of things to go over because we're going to break down the current state of news today. It's not just about the impeachment, but while Democrats are saying Orange Man bad and must be impeached, we have, what's that? Inflation cooling much more than anyone expected. The price of gas and eggs both down, even with this looming trade war. Donald Trump's tariffs have all these Democrats freaking out for the stupidest of reasons. Now, we can debate the tariff thing. Ontario back down. We'll see, because we're still pending the resolution on how the tariff trade war plays out. But at the same time, Donald Trump has also gotten Ukraine to agree to a ceasefire agreement. That doesn't mean Russia did. So right now, as literally everybody in the Trump administration is saying, the ball is in Putin's court. That's their go-to phrase right now. Let's see if Putin actually entertains this ceasefire, which I think is in Russia's interests. So we shall see. But I got to tell you, Trump is doing the best job of any president in my lifetime. I can't speak to anybody before my lifetime. A lot of people really liked Ronald Reagan, but I was not alive. Actually, I think I was maybe for the last 2 years. When did he leave? 88? I was born in 86. I'm not a big fan of his cultural policies, but that's okay. He saved this country from Jimmy Carter's failures. Donald Trump's doing a really great job. They're going to be ending the Department of Education. I got to be honest. Donald Trump is basically preaching to me. Not kidding. Because all of these things he's doing with gutting the bureaucratic state, particularly the Department of Education, these are major issues for me. I absolutely despise American public schooling. I'm a health nut. It really does feel like this administration aligns with me more than any politician or political group, whatever, that I've ever seen. You name some NGO and I'm going to be like, I don't know, man. Maha, I'm a big fan. I love that healthy stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I do enjoy a Pop-Tart here and there. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s position was never, you can't enjoy a delicious treat once in a while. That being said, there are much better delicious treats that don't need to have that weird preservative garbage and artificial dyes in it. And at the same time, I'm going to say, red alert, ladies and gentlemen, West Virginia's legislature has passed the artificial food dye ban. The governor could still veto it because big companies are threatening to pull a lot of money from the state. So we need that support. But you know what? I'm not so sure it matters because a bunch of states are now lining up saying that they're going to ban this all the same. So West Virginia can be like, you can threaten whatever you want. We got 12 other states that are saying they're banning this too. So you need to fall in line. It ain't on us. But let's do this. Let's talk about Donald Trump's pending impeachment, which, guys, you know it's going to happen, okay? I'm not saying he will get impeached. And first, what people always confuse, impeachment does not mean removal from office. Impeachment means indictment, basically. He would then need to be convicted in the Senate And that's never going to happen because it's like you need 2/3 of the Senate to actually convict for there to be a removal of the presidency. So they're going to try and play these games. It ain't going to work out. But in the meantime, head over to castbrew.com, my friends, and pick up some delicious Cast Brew coffee. Before we get started, I'll give a shout out to what we got going on. Ian's Graphene Dream is sold out. But as always, there is still a great opportunity for you to have Appalachian Nights. That's everybody's favorite. Maybe I should promote a different blend because we sell so much of Appalachian Nights. Don't forget gingerbread. That's 2 weeks till Christmas. It's now been 3 months since Christmas, but Phil is dressed like Santa Claus. Focus with Mr. Bocus and Misty Mountains. And as always, head over to rumble.com/TimcastIRL. Check out the Green Room Show. It is an entire podcast. Yesterday, 45-minute show. I got to be honest. This means I'm doing 6 hours of content a day. To be fair, I was only in this one for about a half an hour, but I really do recommend you check this one out because let's just say the subject matter has to do with mandated medications, the results, and a buddy of mine told the story of what happened to him. That's at rumble.com/TimcastIRL. It's the Bubba the Love Sponge Green Room Show. You got to join Rumble Premium. Use promo code TIM10 to get $10 off. But let's jump into the news, my friends. From Newsweek, Donald Trump impeachment petition gets 250,000 signatures. Oh, boy. Well, that certainly means nothing. But okay, Democrats, you keep trying. Because as long as you feel like you're doing something, you will allow us to keep doing what we are doing. I do love how Colbert even mocked Democrats after the State of the Union, where they held up those little signs. Colbert held one up at the beginning of his show and it said, try doing something. Yeah. Meanwhile, Democrats are all fighting amongst themselves for the most part. And Trump is, let's just say, running roughshod over the deep state. A petition urging that Congress begin impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump, be impeached, wait, I think there's a typo there, has attracted more than 250,000 signatures, according to the nonprofit that initiated it. Newsweek has contacted the White House and Free Speech for People, the campaign group that set up the petition, for comment via email. They said the petition's support highlights the growing political division in the country during Trump's second term in office. Oh, boy. I've got a big list for all of you of all of the things they claim Donald Trump has done, which are criminal and warrant impeachment. And we will go through all of them. Now, I can't say at the top of my head I can debunk literally every claim they make off the top of my head. I can largely debunk or reject or counter a lot of their opinion claims, because that's mostly what it is. But they make a few direct claims which are interesting, and we'll have to look up. They say Free Speech for People said on March 7th, they gained more than 250,000 signatures. They launched the Impeach Trump Again campaign on January 20th. Oh, gee, literally the day he got elected. So you mean to tell me the day the man was elected, you were like, we have grounds for impeachment. One of their claims is that he's ineligible to be president because of the Insurrection Act. Okay. If that's, I'm sorry, you got to tell me what Trump did the day he got elected that you were able to launch this campaign. Because you know what that means? The website was already in development. They already had personnel. They were planning the impeachment before Trump even became president. That's how unserious these people are. They're going to mention that such reasons they've cited are his involvement in pardoning those in January 6th, the attack on the attack on the Capitol, and the attempt to remove birthright citizenship. The group cites multiple other reasons, blah, blah, blah. They said the group is also calling for his impeachment after he suggested the U.S. could take over the Gaza Strip. Speaking after a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu on February 4th, Trump suggested Palestinians could be resettled as the U.S. rebuilt the war-torn region into the Riviera of the Middle East. I'm sure that'll go over really well, Trump, with the Muslim populations that don't care for vices. Texas Rep. Al Green vowed to introduce articles of impeachment against Trump in February, saying the president's plan amounted to ethnic cleansing. Green, who sought to impeach Trump multiple times, has yet to file the latest impeachment resolution against the president. He said he was working on his articles of impeachment after he was removed from the House chamber for heckling Trump while the president was delivering his March 4th address to Congress. Well, here's the website. Free Speech for People. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, free speech for people. The people who largely opposed free speech for the past 15 years, now claiming they're for it, do not sway me. They're basically saying the same thing. They say, blah, blah, blah. We got a bunch of signatures, yada, yada, sure, whatever. How about we do this? Let's play this clip from Democracy Now! So you can hear directly from this here feller who is leading the charge.
We're launching this campaign because we believe it's critical that we invoke this impeachment clause.
John Bonifaz.
Of the Constitution at this moment in history. This president has already committed multiple abuses of power since assuming the presidency.
He hasn't.
And the framers designed the Constitution to ensure that we would not have a monarch or a tyrant govern this nation. They set up three co-equal branches of government: the Congress, the executive branch, the judiciary, but they also put in this extra guardrail, the impeachment clause, and it's designed to deal with that lawless president who abuses the power of the office. And those multiple abuses of power keep piling up every day. We've documented at IMPEACHTrumpAgain.org many of these abuses, including his abuse of the pardon power, where he, on day one, effectively pardoned 1,500 of his fellow insurrectionists who had attacked the Capitol on January 6, 2021, to try to stop the peaceful transfer of power. We have also documented the way in which he issued an executive order to end birthright citizenship.
So let's just pause real quick. I'm going to go through this big list they have, but I can't let this guy keep talking without addressing it. Donald Trump was never convicted of any crimes related to January 6th. Okay. There were a few seditious conspiracy charges among Proud Boys, but of the people largely who rioted at the Capitol, it was mostly misdemeanors. Well, I shouldn't even say for those who rioted, some got assaulted an officer and stuff like that, but most other people just got misdemeanor trespass. Donald Trump was never found guilty of any crimes, convicted of anything, nor impeached for this. There were several hearings over whether or not he was an insurrectionist or whatever, and never was it concluded. He then was duly elected and used his pardon power, exactly as it's described, to pardon these individuals. Not an abuse. Not at all.
Know that this is a constitutional right. You cannot erase a part of the Constitution with an executive order.
Then I'd like to just pause right there and you see what he's doing? Now he says the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, it's in there, that proves it. Well, we've already discussed this. It's up for the Supreme Court to interpret based on the actions that Trump will take. And the original writer, I forgot the guy's name, the senator who wrote it, said it will not include children of foreign aliens. And they're trying to argue, yes, it will. No. Donald Trump issues an executive order. There's a lawsuit. It gets checked by the Supreme Court, and they'll determine whether or not that's the case. But if you want to really complain about the unilateral alteration of the Constitution, let it be said that Joe Biden, before he left office, claimed the Equal Rights Amendment was the law of the land. And all of these Democrats just said it was true. It's not true. It's not true today. It was never true. Nothing happened. But I don't see this guy screaming about Biden.
Two separate federal courts have found this to be unconstitutional, but it's also an abuse of power. He's usurped the power of Congress by freezing funds that have been duly appropriated by Congress. Only Congress has the power to appropriate funds.
And Trump has sovereign immunity, they described it, and can determine whether or not to pay out. It's called a check and a balance. Listen to what he says.
He's gone ahead and frozen those funds. And now courts have demanded that he release those funds, and he's defying those court orders. An attack on the judiciary, an attack on the Congress. The list goes on. And the point of the impeachment power is to ensure that we do not have this kind of lawlessness coming out of the Oval Office. And that's why we launched this campaign.
Indeed you did, my friend. I love it so much. This guy is straight up like, he abused his pardon power. You know, not like Joe Biden, who pardoned his whole family, most of them, I think. And Anthony Fauci, going back to what, 2016, was it? Was it 2016? And everyone's like, what's with the 11-year pardon? 11 years. Okay, it's one thing if you said I pardoned for a crime. No, not literally anything they could have done. A handful of people didn't get them. But I have to wonder, is that an abuse of the pardon power? Well, You know, we don't like it, but it's not, because the pardon power allows the president to do this. And Trump was duly elected, so y'all can cry more about it. But you know what's really fascinating is this question right here. What's this one? Biden's use of an auto pen on official documents raises questions from critics. Look, my point is, I get it. Someone does something wrong. It doesn't excuse someone else from doing something wrong. But y'all don't get to now start pretending like you care. Let's talk about our good friend, Mahmoud Khalil. You guys know who that is? This is a guy who was a green card holder. He had his green card revoked. He's been arrested by ICE. They're planning on deporting him. And there's a judge who's stopped the deportation. And the Democrats are saying, but what about our free speech? Don't you understand how bad this is? And I'm like, yeah, wow. The free speech of a non-citizen is in jeopardy. I have some concerns about that. I seem to recall when, I don't know, tens of millions of Americans had their free speech threatened with mass censorship, that most of it was directed, or largely was directed by the federal government, and the Democrats clapped and cheered for it. So you want to come to me and scream Slava Ukraini and free Palestine, and I'm just going, America? And then you want me to defend the free speech of a guy who's not an American while you condemned Americans to censorship. Nice try. I ain't playing that game. Now, I could go through this big list, and I want to. Defend democracy, the impeachment against Donald Trump. First, we have this. Congressman Al Green announces plan to file articles of impeachment. Oh, my stars and garters. This is from last week. Y'all know it. This guy does this all the time, though. So the degree to which I look at him wiggling his little cane. Trump. Yeah. Shut up, dude. The degree to which we see Democrats do things like this is not shocking to anybody. But I will stress, if Trump loses the midterms, if the Republicans lose the midterms, Trump will be impeached. Mark my words, you all know it. That's why I keep telling everybody, you've got to be active participants in the news. You've got to be active in the political landscape. You can't just be passive. So I deeply respect and I appreciate anybody who's watching, who's just chilling. You watch show, you carry on with your day. I get it. I strongly encourage everybody to be active. And if you're thinking like, well, what can I do? How do I get involved? The first thing is networking. So go to timcast.com, click join us, join the Discord server. There's 20,000 plus people. You'll be hanging out. Now you're connected. Also, don't forget, share this show. Smash the like button right now if you haven't already. And share the show with everyone you know. Seriously, being active, building lines of communication, and expanding culture is how we maintain the presence of mind so that come 2026, Trump does not lose. Because I'll tell you what's going to happen. In 2016, Trump wins. 2018 comes around. Trump was doing He was doing, it was okay, right? Republicans lost the midterms in 2018. And the reason why was because Trump supporters did not come out to vote. That's right. None of these people cared about a member of Congress. They wanted Trump. They voted for Trump, and then they left. And this tends to be the case, that Trump's supporters, they'll vote in a presidential election, but not in a midterm. So what can we do? That's why I'm like, each and every single individual who builds a routine around these issues will remain active when the midterms come. Trump just won. He's been in for what? We're going on 2 months, a month and a half. And so for many people, they watch the news cycle and they're starting to check out. We're going to go a year and a half, and these people who did vote for Trump and put him over the edge are not going to be there. And Democrats like this, with these impeachments and them vomiting all over themselves, they will show up to vote. Trump will then, the Republicans will lose the midterms. Democrats will take, they only need 2 seats, flip 2. And then what you're going to see, they immediately impeach Donald Trump. Now, the other thing is, they only need a couple of seats. That's it. And so the issue then becomes, in 1 year's time, when the midterm election cycle starts to ramp up, squishy Republicans will stop supporting the president. This is a big controversy the other day with Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie was like, I ain't voting for no continuing resolution. I like Thomas Massie. He is a man of honor, intelligence, and integrity. I deeply respect him, and I disagree with him on a lot of things. And I've argued with him on X sometimes. Not so much argued, but countered his points and said, I disagree, good sir. And I would consider Massie to be my favorite member of Congress. Matt Gaetz was. Matt Gaetz left, but Matt Gaetz, because he threw a pie in the face of the machine and he was dismantling that bureaucratic machine in a smaller way to what Trump is doing now. But Thomas Massie said he wasn't going to vote for the continuing resolution. Trump needs that funding to go through. It still has to make its way through the Senate, where it needs 60 votes because of the filibuster. Trump needs it to go through because we are racing the clock. So while I respect Thomas Massie, I also understand that he endorsed Donald Trump because Trump was going to pardon Ross Ulbricht. My stance on Massie is, Trump's called for him to be primaried, and now Massie, he's probably feeling the heat. Thomas Massie, he's our generation's Ron Paul. He's Dr. No. He's the new Professor No. He needs to stay in Congress and keep doing the good work that he's doing, even though I think he should have voted yes, because he's a good man. He's a good man. But in this instance, we have a year for Trump to get through as much as he can. And that means I know continuing resolutions are bad. I hate them. I supported Matt Gaetz because he was trying to get the single line item budget bills. Right now, they're saying, yeah, do a continuing resolution. And I'm like, well, Donald Trump has already proven to me that he's going to do what he says. So this is not going to be a similar story where I feel like the Republican says, just do it this one time. And then when we cave, they keep doing it. I actually think we get Trump his budget and we get these budgets pushed through, and Trump is going to start nuking the deep state as much as he can, gutting these agencies as he already is, and he's going to do what he promised to do. So that's why my attitude is like, you can be a man of principle, Representative Massie, and still vote for that continuing resolution. Because I'll tell you what I would have done. I'm the kind of guy who probably would always vote against the continuing resolution as well. But if I was in Congress right now, I'd hold a press conference, I'd come out, I'd talk to the press, and I'd say, listen, or I'd make a video for X. Say, guys, I don't want to vote for this. It adds to the deficit. It adds to the debt. It is not good to continually do these things. That being said, we may only have 1 year for Donald Trump to do the things that he's done. And I say this to you, Rep. Massie, and I say this to the American people. Rep. Massie, when you endorsed Donald Trump because you wanted him to pardon Ross Ulbricht, he did it. He did. He didn't have to do that. He had already won. He's not going to run for re-election. He doesn't need to fulfill any promise to anybody, but he chose to do it. He said, I told him I would do it, so I'm doing it. I respect it. Trump could have won and said, well, we looked at it and we don't think it's possible. He could have played that game too. Instead, he says, I'm a man of my word. You voted for me. You have my back. Granted. Respect. So what I say to him is right now, with that move and the other moves he's made, I will give him the benefit of the doubt. If it were me, I would vote yes on that resolution and say, do not let me down, Mr. President. I am putting a lot of faith in voting yes on this bill that I reject, but because I believe you are going to do as much good as possible in a short amount of time, and it needs to happen. So anyway, I digress. Back to the main point about impeachment. I'm just saying, there are ways that you can maintain your principles. And I forgot why I got off on that thing, but I think it was important to address. But let's do this. Let's take a look at the current state of affairs in this country. How about this shocking news report from everyone's favorite Washington Post? Inflation eased more than expected in February ahead of steel and aluminum tariffs. What? Ha! Tariffs have fueled worries of another recession, which President Donald Trump has declined to rule out. So you mean to tell me that Trump's been president for a month and inflation eased more than expected? Look at that. It's a picture of eggs. The cost of eggs is now lower today than when Donald Trump was first elected. The cost of gasoline is now down much the same. Prices are coming down, and it's only been a month and a half. Inflation is cooling. Now understand this. Trump's a bloviator. If you don't know that by now, oh boy, you haven't been paying attention. Trump is a guy who's going to come out and say, I'm going to end the war today. And then it's like a month later and we just got a ceasefire agreement from Ukraine. Maybe Putin will agree to it. Dude, this has been the case with Trump the entire time. Everybody knows back in 2016, he's the big ask guy. We're going to build a big, beautiful wall, 30 feet from sea to shining sea, concrete. And then what do we get? Bollard fencing. The funny thing is, Trump really did want a gigantic concrete wall from sea to shining sea. And CBP was like, Trump, that's a bad idea because we can't see on the other side of it, so we don't know what they're doing. So you don't know what areas to secure. Trump said, oh, well, what should we do? And they said, let's start with triple layered bollard fencing with razor wire in select areas that are highly trafficked. And Trump said, okay. Now, I got to admit, ladies and gentlemen, those fences, they're really easy to climb. There are so many videos of people with no equipment just climbing up and over them. That's the reality. So what you're probably going to want is 3 layers, and you're going to want razor wire and, like I said, triple layer fencing. The point is, Trump says big, big things, and then you get itty bitty. And you're like, still good, still good. That's the big ask. When you say, I'll sell you this delicious grapefruit spindrift for $50, and then you're like, $50 for a soda? I ain't buying it. Okay, fine. How about $7? And you go, $7's cheap. No, $7's actually ridiculously expensive, but the $50 made it sound like it was a lot. So here we have a guy. They're saying that they want to impeach, and let's look at the results. Inflation has eased. They were talking about waving empty egg cartons at the State of the Union address. The Democrats were going to bring empty egg cartons and attack Donald Trump for not getting the price of eggs down. Here's the reality. Inflation shows prices have still gone up. However, it's much less than was expected, and key products like eggs have gone down. I think Trump is going to get prices down. But what's funny is during the campaign, he's like, we're going to bring your prices down as fast as we can. Day one, you're going to see it, blah, 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 big talk. Then he gets in and he says, look, it's very hard to do, but we're working on it. And immediately Democrats are like, all of a sudden, I care about eggs. They didn't care about eggs before. They didn't care about free speech before. What else do we have lined up here? Oh, I want to jump to the tariff thing. First, I want to do a quick overview. U.S.-backed ceasefire offer poses dilemma for Putin. That's right. Donald Trump has gotten Ukraine to agree to a 30-day ceasefire. Putin needs to agree to it now, so we will see. And then we have the tariffs. So what else do we have? Oh, the fake Oval Office. Is that what I have pulled up? And footage of Mahmoud Khalil. So I do want to go through the list of the impeachment things, but I do want to address the tariff stuff because the big news today was that Trump imposed a sweeping 25% steel and aluminum tariff. Europe immediately retaliates. I'm loving it. This is good news. It's great news. I will scream to the high heavens on tariffs all day and all night, and I will rag on all these libertarians. You name it, don't know, don't care. But let me show you this video from Ed Krasenstein. Look at this, 2.7 million views in this tweet. Look how many, 9,000 retweets. He says, the gaslighting won't work. Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt is called out by the AP in her lies about tariffs. She tries to claim that tariffs are not a tax on Americans when in fact they are. But this reporter isn't having it. Well, Ed's lying to you. It's simple enough to say tariffs are technically a tax that will impact you as importers pay the tariffs. But this is on products being brought into this country, not on the American people. They are lying because they want this country to suck. They want it to burn down. Let me play the clip, and then I'll tell you why these folks are wrong.
When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs. And I'm curious for why he's
tax hikes in the form of tariffs. Come on, bro, be honest.
Prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people. And the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all 3 of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have. They don't get charged on foreign companies. They get charged on the importers.
And ultimately,
That's right.
when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you're trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press.
Well, Carolyn, with all due respect, you should have known better. Look, first, let's discuss this. He said, I have paid a tariff. You sure have. A lot of people have. It's on the importer. Sure is. So you, as a company, are basically facilitating.
We're launching this campaign because we believe it's critical.
Get out of here, X. Why did X autoplay? You're basically saying to a foreign country that produces a product, we're going to bring your product into this country and sell it to the American people, which means the money leaves this country and goes to the foreign country and the people who do labor over there. It is hard for Americans to compete with these foreign slave labor. And so I'll just keep it real simple. An American needs to make, I think the number 10 years ago, 13 years ago, was like $80,000 a year to be middle class median. I wonder what that number is now. What salary is required to be middle class? No. To have all needs fulfilled. Because that was the metric by which they tracked this. They basically said, if you want to have a savings, a retirement, 2 weeks of vacation, be able to support 2.5 kids, they said it was 80. So now the ranges go upwards of 150,000. That's COVID inflation for you. So anyway, you need to make that amount of money. So there's a guy, and let's say he makes skateboards. Oh, I love going here. No, let's say he makes cars. That's an easy one, right? He works at an auto manufacturing assembly line, and he needs to make $100K, okay? And they say, we're going to pay you 70. And he's like, but I need the job, man. So he says, okay. And a portion of his money goes to the union, whatever. Maybe he likes the union. So now he's not really meeting all of his needs. He's got bills, credit card debts piling up. And then one day you get Bill Clinton and whoever else, and they're like, Obama, Bush, we're gonna negotiate free trade, meaning the vehicles that are made in other countries can be freely brought into the United States. The auto manufacturer in Detroit goes to old Jim Bob over here making $70K and says, buddy, now to be fair, like at the time of NAFTA, you probably only needed 60, 70, so he's probably doing all right. He says, buddy, we're shutting down the plant. And he says, why? Because we're going to reopen in Mexico. It's not that far away, relatively, and the workers there can get paid $2 an hour instead of 40. Buy $40 an hour to $2 an hour. Because people in these countries will take substantially less. The car is made, brought into the United States, and this is the ridiculous, short-sighted stupidity of Democrats and people like, Ed, come on, buddy. Google is your friend. What ends up happening is Michigan collapses. Don't you guys remember the movie Tommy Boy? They had a small town that had a car parts factory. They made brake pads. And if that factory went out of business, the town was gone. There was no more income. So Tommy's got to go and sell a bunch of brake pads to try and save the town. And then eventually he does by tricking Dan Aykroyd on TV. What a fun movie. When these cars come into this country for free, and they can be made with substantially cheaper labor and no environmental regulations, the cost of the car to produce goes way down. Now, to be fair, libertarians argue this means it's cheaper to buy the cars. But then I got a problem for my libertarian friends. Old Jim Bob doesn't have a job at all. He's on welfare now because he got laid off and there's no auto jobs. He's not going to go learn to code. So now he has no money. Then the auto manufacturer says, old Jim Bob, won't you buy a car? And he goes, how am I supposed to buy a car? I don't have a job. Then they flood the border with a bunch of low-skilled labor that will work under the table illegally for dirt costs. And now it's here. And old Jim Bob, his son, his brother, his neighbor, his dad, his uncle, None of them are finding jobs. And what happens? We see economic downturn. But don't worry, on paper, everything looks good because the people running those companies are still seeing profits. So what ends up happening is, I would call it international normalization. Mexico goes up, well, America goes down, and that was always the intention. Trump says, enough, no more, let's roll the tariffs, baby. So what happens now? You want to import that car from Mexico? Trump slaps a 30% tariff on it. Now, it was going to be 17, but now it's going to cost you an additional $4,000. Actually, more than that. What are we looking at? We're looking at 5,000 some odd dollars. We're looking at, 5,100. And you can buy cheaper American. That tariff, the purpose of, it's a tax intended to make these companies say, okay, well, it may cost us $4,000 more to make the car here, but nobody wants to import a car at that high of a cost. So American competitors succeed on aluminum, on steel, on everything. So it's a tariff on people trying to use slave labor from foreign countries. So I'm for it. The long story short of this is Trump is doing an amazing job. In the meantime, however, they've got impeach Trump now. Demand accountability. Oh boy, you got a list for me? You do? Let's go through that list. Go through a list of all the things they say Trump has done that warrants his impeachment. What I want to say, my friends, is they were planning the impeachment, as I mentioned earlier on the show, before he even got elected. So you can take a look at these issues and say they're full of it. But as we read this, don't forget to smash the like button, share the show. My birthday was on Sunday. If you want to get me a birthday present, share the show right now. Here's their claims. Defend democracy. Donald Trump has been sworn in as president of the United States for a second time. Not only is he disqualified from the presidency, let's try that one first. Nope. There's never been any official ruling or anything saying Trump can't be president. You don't get to go on TV and go, Trump's an insurrectionist. Oh, wait, the Constitution says you can't have insurrectionists. Trump's not president. Like, bro, you made that up. You made, not only that, but the 14th Amendment doesn't actually bar anyone from being president. And it makes a lot of sense. Let's go back in time to when they drafted the 14th Amendment. It says, actually, let me just pull the 14th Amendment for you so we can break down why they're lying, how they're lying. The old 14th Amendment popping up right here. And we want to, of course, go to, I believe it's Section 3. No person shall be a senator or rep in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature, blah, 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 if who engage in insurrection. The first thing is Trump's never been convicted of engaging in insurrection. So there's never been any due process, definitive, beyond a reasonable doubt, Trump's an insurrectionist. Let's just stop there. Okay, nothing else matters. On top of that, as it's already been debated quite a bit, they're talking specifically about it is being as an officer of the United States or whatever. Nowhere does it say that you can't be president. Now, people point to or hold any office. The argument being made is that the president of the United States is not specifically mentioned in this and is not covered by this because if northern states, pro-union states, chose to vote without any insurrectionist electors for a person who was involved in the secession and Civil War, then this was unity. It was unification. The reason why no senators or reps could be is because the North didn't agree to it. To put it simply, if you engaged in civil war and then your state said, we're going to send one of our generals to the government to debate and argue, the North is like, no, we defeated you guys. We don't agree to this. The reason why president isn't included is because it would require northern states to agree. So that's your due process. But none of that even matters. Trump was never convicted of that, so why are we even wasting our time? Blah, blah, blah. They say he's violated his oath to the Constitution. Trump is not a monarch, et cetera, et cetera. They're calling for immediate impeachment. All right. The case for impeachment against Donald Trump. Is it possible to make this any bigger? Kind of. Okay. Planning the forced removal of the Palestinians from Gaza is number one. I'm going to pause you right there and say, saying words about what maybe you might want to do is not impeachable. Stop wasting my time. They're trying to act like Donald Trump saying, maybe we should relocate the Palestinians and make it a Riviera, as if he did a thing. He didn't. So what? If a guy came out and was like, maybe we should take action, but that action might violate SEC laws, you're under arrest. It's like, bro, I didn't say we should. I said, what if we did? Certainly you're allowed to entertain some ideas like this. Not only that, but Trump's discussion about relocating Palestinians, he never said forcibly. He was like, we'd relocate them. No, actually, he may have. I don't know. But either way, Trump simply saying, maybe we could do a thing. They're saying it qualifies as a felony under the United States, the U.S. war crimes statute. Please. And that's the number one. Okay, here we go. Abusing his power to seek retribution against perceived adversaries. How exciting. They go to mention unlawfully firing federal law enforcement attorneys involved in Jack Smith's investigation. None of it was unlawful. None of it was. The president can fire whoever he wants. So they added the word unlawfully, but there's literally nothing unlawful about it. Unlawfully firing more. Okay. That we're investigating J6. Nope. Still no law was broken. Trump is the chief executive and he decides. And he decided, and I believe rightfully so, many of these people would not be trustworthy in his administration. That's it. Unlawfully investigating attorneys who were involved in the prosecution of Eric Adams. It is not unlawful to investigate. Sorry, have a nice day. Persecuting. Notice say persecuting. Mark Milley. What does that mean? Persecute. Not prosecute, persecute. Oh, because what? He took his security clearance? That's not, none of these are high crimes or misdemeanors. Stripping former public officials of security details. Trump is the arbiter of classification. He has plenary declassification powers and classification powers. It is he who determines as the duly elected commander in chief. The persecution, notice they're saying persecution, but which basically means like Trump's being mean to them. Undermines the independence of the DOJ and the FBI. They're not independent. You see what these people do? The DOJ and the FBI serve at the pleasure of the president. They are executive branches, and the Constitution, which you cited, good sir, says all executive authority is vested in the president, duly elected, as Trump was. Co-opting and dismantling independent government oversight. Once again, the executive branch falls under Donald Trump, and he can do as he so desires. Not only that, none of it's unlawful. If it in any way violates the Constitution, there is a thing called checks and balances where you can sue and it goes to court and the Supreme Court can decide. Trump can appeal and it can go as far as it can go. Ordered the unlawful termination of more than 17 duly appointed inspectors general. Once again, if there's an issue, you can sue and the courts can check upon this. But the argument made by the executive branch is that these people serve under the executive branch and at the pleasure of the president, who has full executive authority, or the DOJ from investigating any violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. So this one I'm less familiar with. It prohibits U.S. corporations and individuals from bribing foreign governments. The stop order will allow businesses controlled by Trump. There you go. Okay, just stop. If Donald Trump ordered the DOJ to stop investigating violations of the Foreign Corruption Practices Act, I'm assuming it's related to specific particular cases involving specific businesses and still well within his purview as the commander in chief. It is not a crime for the president to order the DOJ to do as he desires. If you have evidence, fair point, that he's specifically intervening to protect his family businesses, and you can prove intent and and malice, aforethought, or whatever is required. I mean, look, let's put it this way. If you can find actual written correspondence between Trump and, say, Don Jr., where Don is saying something like, hey, we're going to, if you pay us and invest in us, we're going to get you access to Donald Trump. And then when you invest in our company, we're going to hold 10% for the big guy. Maybe then I'd say, oh, wow, maybe that's impeachable. But I seem to recall Joe Biden and his son and influence peddling, and y'all didn't seem to care too much about that. So on top of this one, let me just say, you're going to be hard-pressed to make me move on this. Y'all played this game and you laughed about it. So your words mean nothing. But I'll tell you what does mean something, my words. So if I see the Trump administration doing something that plainly and clearly breaks the law, we're going to call them out on it. Donald Trump defends TikTok. I call him out all the time. Donald Trump in his first term wanted the G7 at Trump derail. I called him out for it. I'm not here to play stupid games, but y'all seem to be. What else? Appointed Musk to lead Doge. Is it a joke? Fired. There's not even a reason to address that. He's allowed to do that. Fired the NLRB general counsel. Yes. Okay. This is hilarious. It's like he's the chief executive and he fired someone who worked for him. We should impeach him. No, that's it. We elected him to do this. Fired 2 Democratic Senate confirmed commissioners of the Bipartisan Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So what? Again, I just say so. None of these things are like he mercilessly beat a child to death. If Donald Trump walked out and started clubbing a child with a 9-iron, is that a thing? I don't play golf. And then we just watched him do it. I'd be like, arrest that man, please. But what you're talking about is he fired some guy who worked for him. Like, come on, show me him mercilessly beating a child. Let's have a conversation. Laid off or bought out between 4 and 10% of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration employees. So what? Okay, I'm not going to read these anymore. Stupid impeach Trump guys. If you just keep saying Trump fired people who worked for him, I'm going to be like, guy, he's allowed to do that. And if you have an administrative complaint, you file suit and it goes to the Supreme Court to determine whether or not he's allowed to fire them. Yeah, I love this one. Unconstitutionally usurping Congress's power. Because Donald Trump has sovereign immunity, and that was the claim made by Alito, and is up for contention. So let's see. Sovereign immunity protects a sitting U.S. president from certain lawsuits and prosecutions while in office, with its scope being debated. Here's what happened. Trump said, "We're not paying these contracts out," and Democrats were like, "But we apportioned funding to these departments." Okay, let me pause you, impeacher people. Congress can say we are giving $2 million to USAID, and then as an executive agency, the executive branch oversees it. The power of the purse means that Congress can take the money away from Trump, but they can't control what he does with it, not to a great degree. They can appropriate funds to specific programs, indeed, but funding directly to USAID is for USAID as an agency to spend. That's, of course, where Trump is suspending payments. If they say specifically these funds are allocated for these specific purposes, then you have a question of whether or not Trump can suspend those payments. The question then becomes a judicial one, not a criminal one. If Donald Trump says don't pay out that money that Congress had to pay out, he's not breaking the law. It's called checks and balances, which y'all claim to want. Now, let's try this again. The legislative branch passes legislation. The executive branch executes action and law enforcement, and the judicial branch reviews and interprets the law. So if Congress passes legislation and then Trump, through executive action, says, stop, the Supreme Court then has to intervene, checks and balances. The president serves as a check. Judicial branch serves as a check, and then we can all just move on when the Supreme Court makes the determination. If there is a dispute between the president and the Supreme Court, it is supposed to be the legislative branch that then clarifies or codifies in laws the actions we must be taking. This is the point. You don't just get to say Trump taking actions are illegal. He is the president. He has to do these things. It's how we have checks and balances. Based on the argument from these impeached people, there literally is no check or balance on any of the branches. Because this would mean that anything done by the Supreme Court or by the legislative branch, Trump could not intervene and do anything to stop them from doing it. How about this? When the federal government said illegal immigration, you can't do it. And then Joe Biden didn't enforce those laws. Was he committing a crime? Unlawfully allowing? Right. Where were you, Democrats? How about when federal law says, marijuana is illegal and California sold it anyway, and many states did anyway? Are they in violation of federal law? Are we going to go and arrest all of them? You see, the issue is there's practical application. But the illegal immigration thing is really funny because we know for a fact now that Joe Biden was letting all of these people in intentionally. Are we going to go arrest him and say he was violating the Constitution? He was breaking the law? Congress passed these bills. You can't cross the border. It's illegal. Biden wouldn't enforce it. No, it's because the executive branch, they can do these things. Well, so how do we respond to it? We elected Trump. Overnight, Trump ended it. How about that? Receiving foreign and domestic emoluments. This one is rather vague. They're basically saying that Trump has refused to relinquish his ownership stake in companies. I don't see why that matters. If Trump, once again, tries using his own golf resorts for government functions, I'm going to call him out like I did with the G7. So once again, still don't think that it's impeachable. I think it's slap on the wristable. I don't think you impeach and remove a president because he wanted to host an event at one of his resorts or whatever. He has already has or is assured to receive substantial payments and benefits from foreign governments, from the U.S. and from several states. He has enabled Musk to do the same. It's an opinion. Depriving citizens of their birthright. I love this one because he's like, that's in the Constitution. It's not. It's up for debate. Thank you and have a nice day. Corruptly dismissing charges against Eric Adams. Shut up. Prosecutors make deals with individuals who are facing criminal charges literally every single day, probably thousands of times per day. Stop wasting my time. He didn't abuse the pardon power at all. That's silly because Joe Biden pardoned his family. So you can't, there's no abusing the pardon power. The president can pardon who they want. It's plenary. Abusing the emergency power. Nope. Obama declared emergencies. They all do. We all complain about it. You can't now get angry. Certainly, I'll say this. To be fair, all the presidents do declare emergencies way too much. And I would like to see that not happen. Blocking efforts to secure U.S. elections. That's fake and made up, and we're not going to bother with it. Usurping local and state authority. Once again, that's just silly and made up. Now they're arguing the 10th Amendment. Spare me. I saw what y'all were doing during COVID. Like, this is ridiculous, okay? I ain't playing this game because I voted for Donald Trump. And yes, to be fair, I'll say it. Maybe Trump does things that Biden, Obama, and Bush did too, that we don't want them to do. I am not a moron who simply goes, we must hold ourselves to the perfect, utmost, highest standard and sacrifice our chance at winning and cleaning up this country. I'm going to say, I don't like that they do it. The continuing resolution, I don't want to see those things pass. I'm going to give Trump a year to get this stuff sorted. I voted for him. I'm going to give him a chance. Either way, it's not impeachable. None of it is. What's the point of even reading this? Engaging in unlawful corrupt practices is just a generic, vague, nonsense statement, and that's basically it. They say, since the 2024 election, Trump has promised to undertake a number of policies and practices that would, if implemented, qualify as impeachable abuses of power. Unlawfully mobilize the U.S. military in U.S. cities. Trump is allowed to do that. It's called the Insurrection Act. Thank you. Have a nice day. Cruelly and unconstitutionally imprison and separate immigrant families. Once again, he's allowed to do it. Section 221. Subsection I of the Immigration, the Nationalization Act at NIA or whatever, I don't know, says that the Secretary of State can just take anyone's visa at any time with no judicial hearing. Selectively prosecute or otherwise seek retribution against political rivals and journalists. Once again, Trump threatening to sue journalists is not illegal. Appoint billionaire campaign contributors such as Musk. Still, they all do it. I don't know what your argument is. You see, my friends, it's just silly nonsense. You know, that's it. Let's talk about impeaching Joe Biden. Alina Habba says she's found the fake Oval Office. There you go. Joe Biden did so many things. And I'm not going to play this game of, well, Biden did it, so Trump can do it. No, the reality is neither of them should be doing certain things. But I'm not going to play your game because y'all are evil. Let me simplify it for you. You beaten, battered, and spat over the people of this country. And Donald Trump is coming in and he's gutting the bureaucratic state and he's shutting down your corrupt institutions. And now y'all are crying to me saying, please, please be a man of principle. I'm a man of principle. And my principles will be restored after this administrative wartime is over. Abraham Lincoln is the most popular president in American history. That's a fact. Look up all the polls. I don't know why. Maybe it's because people just know the name. It's top of mind more than anybody else. Winning the Civil War was significant, solidified this nation. Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus and arrested people without charge or trial. Abraham Lincoln did a lot of things that people saw as tyrannical. I'm going to say it like this. I do not believe it is true that Trump has done anything worthy of impeachment. That's silly. He's not committed any crimes. That's stupid. Y'all are making it up. But of the things that presidents do that I kind of don't like, I'm not going to sit here and nitpick over Donald Trump using continuing resolutions or things like that when y'all did 10 times worse. I'm not going to give you an inch to take from us and beat us over the head with. I am going to say to Donald Trump, do your thing. Make it so that these people can never wield this power against us. And while Donald Trump is gutting the deep state and the bureaucratic state, he's diminishing federal authority and power. So when you come to me and say, but Trump is doing these things where he's putting a billionaire in charge, he's making himself more powerful, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, look, dude, the end result of what Trump is doing is a curtailing of executive authority and the ability for the federal government to overreach. So you can argue that in sectors A, G, and F, Trump has increased power. And then I'm going to look across the board and be like, yeah, but he sure did dismantle literally every other sector. Meaning the net reduction of federal authority is happening right before our eyes. And you are not going to convince me that Donald Trump should be stopped when y'all did exactly the same thing, but times 10 and worse. And Joe Biden literally broke the law and never got prosecuted. Spare me. Let's take a few minutes to grab your Rumble rants and super chats. My friends, smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Become a member of Rumble Premium because that's where all the good stuff happens. And I really do, guys, I'm going to stress this. Watch. I can't say too much about it because it's not family friendly. It's uncensored. Very serious show. Y'all are probably going to post clips of this. I'm not kidding. Rumble.com/TimcastIRL. Join Rumble Premium. Promo code Tim10. Watch the Bubba the Love Sponge episode we did the other day. And you are going to hear from a buddy of mine about the mandates. And I'm going to keep it vague like that because you're going to want to hear this. This is a musician, a buddy of mine. And what and the story. I got to keep it vague for some obvious reasons. But I recommend you check it out and hear his personal story, his personal journey. And I recommend people share that story when you see it. I know it's Rumble Premium. I'm not saying download and rip the whole episode, right? There's a reason why it's premium because we're trying to make a business operate so we can keep producing more content. We're trying to make sure Rumble succeeds. But those key snippets, comment on them. Fair use them. Let's go. Goldie Lush says, Dan Aykroyd's character in Tommy Boy's name is Zelensky. That's right. It sure is. Let's grab some Rumble rants. What is this? Zeta Reticula says, Tim is in the Scooby-Doo Kids Band. I wish. Are you serious? That'd be amazing. All right. Liberate USA says, hey, Tim, what's with the violence going on in the country already? What's the prognosis for summer? Woo-hoo! Let me tell you, it is a known fact that the far left doesn't protest or riot in the cold. And the fact that we're seeing all this crazy shenanigans already and it's March, summer should get spicy. Hope not. Hope not. Lanzin says, Tim, you should try Flings. They're basically low-carb, healthy-ish Pop-Tarts. Healthy-ish? Well. Coffee Crew Mocha says, nothing more red, white, and blue than coffee, beer, and women. If you can have all three, you're a rich man. Let's go. Skyline says, AP Clown, my prices went up because of tariffs. Hurry up and fire American workers and send jobs overseas. I love it. Yep. That's the game they play, ain't it? Todd Randy says, why don't we call tariffs tax on the rich? It's only the rich who can import a majority of these goods. Good point. Let's do that. I'm going to start saying tax the rich. I'm going to tweet that right now, actually. I'm going to tweet it right now. Oh, you know what? I have this Emerson poll that I wanted to pull up and I didn't. Trump's approval rating 47, disapproval 45, so he's up 2 points. Although it's been going down. And the economy, healthcare, and cryptocurrency, his approval rating is low. But on immigration and balancing the budget, he's a net positive. So people are like, I don't like the economy, healthcare, and crypto stuff, but he's still doing a pretty good job. I'm gonna steal that from you, buddy. Who said that? Todd Ranny. Credit to you. Tax the rich. Impose more tariffs now. There we go. We got him. They'll have no way to answer this. They'll be certainly confused by that one. Free Men Die Free says, Tim assumes libertarians don't have entire libraries addressing these topics. Libertarians would radically shrink government to incentivize job creation. No taxes equals massive jobs in outsourcing and wealth creation. These libraries don't account for technology. And when I have, and it also doesn't account for the fact that people don't read those books. I've had too many debates with libertarians who are like, we should allow free trade anywhere and everywhere. And I'm like, you know, when that book was written about free trade, they didn't have the ability to travel across the ocean in an hour or two. And they can ship products. And if we're talking about super high-end stuff, they'll put it on a plane and fly it out. Not really, but they can load these things on massive ships and they can get here in a couple weeks. It didn't used to be that way. It was very difficult. So people didn't care as much. It was easier to keep the work locally. Now all of our jobs are overseas. We don't make our own vitamin C. We don't make our own computer chips. We're getting trees from Canada. Don't we have trees here? And we could plant them. Crazy. Let's grab one more here. Seeley says, impeach Al Green for having greasy hair. Ooh, spicy. All right. Zed Sin, Archbishop of Defiance, says, so when will we see actual prosecutions of these USAID, FEMA, and activist judges doing fraud, waste, and abuse and overstepping authority? I hope soon. But I got to be honest, these things take time. And I want to believe. I don't know that's going to happen. You're right. When Roseanne was like, we're going to see tribunals, don't hold your breath. I still like what Trump is doing. He's exceeded my expectations. Cash and Pam have been fantastic. We want them to go much harder. Hopefully they will. We'll see. I'm going to wrap it up, my friends. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. We got more segments coming up throughout the day. Don't miss them. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all at noon